Are we due for a major bounce soon, especially after that drop down to some pretty deep lows last night? Got a little scary, but I think we are ready for a bounce soon, and I will show you guys why I think that is on the charts. We're also going to be taking a look into some major AI coin setups and what's going on with these AI coins and what they could be doing in the near future. I'm going to be talking about Flux. I'm going to be talking about OriginTrail. I'm also going to be talking about iExec RLC. See what's going on in these markets later in this video. It's usually going to be about the 10-minute mark or after. If you guys want to skip through, you guys can. But I highly don't recommend it because I always trade actually with the Bitcoin chart in mind first. If Bitcoin is looking good, then I will start trading altcoins uh, accordingly, right? However, if Bitcoin is not looking great, that could really affect the altcoins. So I always pay attention to the Bitcoin chart first, okay? We're also going to be taking a look into some major crypto news and market news and see how they could potentially affect the crypto markets as well as the altcoins, of course. All right, let's go ahead and take a look into some news first before diving into the charts. This is by Cointelegraph. 35 companies now hold at least 1,000 Bitcoin as corporate adoption booms. That's definitely good for the crypto markets as crypto is becoming more mainstream and more front and center in the news and basically in a lot of other aspects that we did not see a couple years ago. Okay, so this is probably something worth digging into if you guys have time. I'm just really looking for price and setup as well as market news, macro market news. Next piece here is by News BTC. Bitcoin pullback remains within normal volatility range. Drawdown analysis show no signs of panic. I agree with this. I think that I mentioned that there was some bearish patterns on the RSI, right, including the monthly time frame. However, we do have exceptions to the monthly RSI bearish divergence, namely back in December 2020 and October 2017. Okay, those were basically the huge breakouts for the last bull cycles. Could this be an exception? Otherwise, we're gonna be in for a pullback here on the monthly time frame, right? And the daily time frame, I mentioned there was bearish divergence. Okay, that we might drop down to the support that we are at right now. We're gonna be looking more into that in just a second. But yeah, I think this is completely normal still. I don't think we're in panic zone yet, right? I'll tell you guys where the panic zone might be later in the charts. All right, Bitcoin grabs 115K liquidity as whale bet on 200K Bitcoin by year end. I think 200K Bitcoin is very much in the cards by year end. And why is it good that Bitcoin has more room to run? That means the altcoins will have more room to run. It is still the driver of this crypto markets, even though it has lost some of its dominance, right? It's currently sitting about under 62% from as high as about 65%, which is huge because Bitcoin has a huge market cap comparing to all the other coins, right? Even Ethereum, it's still nothing compared to Bitcoin, okay? So basically that's what I'm seeing. Gotta be rooting for Bitcoin. I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of altcoins here, so that is definitely good, and I think that's definitely within the cards here. A high probability that 200K Bitcoin by year end is very possible. All right, next one here, Cointelegraph. Bitcoin Strength Index crashes as Galaxy Digital Sales liquidate $500 million. I mean, I this headline is just, you know, like as a trader, I want to explain that whenever there's crashes, there's gonna be, I mean, nothing lasts forever, right? Crashes don't last forever, and pumps don't last forever. Just because it crashed doesn't mean that it's going to continue going. And in this case, I actually see some very strong support levels where it crashed. Okay. So, I mean, this is a headline that's looking into the hindsight more so, right? Yeah, before it crashed, this would probably be more useful news. But after it crashes, yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of people are scared in the markets. But for those of us who have been trading, it's like, for me personally, at least, that I know this is I would more so think that this is it's a zone where I would actually be still longing, right? And if I had more dry powder, I would have gotten into uh a long position possibly, but I did not. So I'm still holding my longs. Okay, but that, of course, everything here is just my opinion, not financial advice, and you got to do your own research, right? Next piece here, it's by News BTC. Warning signs: Bitcoin approaches overheated zone as retail still sits out. Okay, there's, I mean, I'm gonna invalidate a few points in this headline here. Okay, and I'll show you guys why. Bitcoin approaches overheated zone. Yes, it is in overbought zone. At least on the indicator I pay attention to, that I've been paying attention to for the over almost 5+ years. Right, the RSI is in overheated zone. It's in overbought territory technically, but it's nowhere near its FOMO levels like at the peak of bull cycles. If we compare it back to 2021, look at the monthly RSI reading before it actually dumped. Look at 2017, the monthly RSI reading before it actually dumped. And you guys can actually take a look and compare and see where we are at on the monthly RSI compared to those levels. I mean, are we anywhere close? I don't think so. And then retail still sits out. I mean, I think retail's actually getting started, and the tool I'm paying attention to for retail is the Google Trends. Okay, and I think it has been pretty correlated with past bull cycles here. Let me take you guys there. If it doesn't take too long to load, right? It's been taking a little longer than expected. Okay, so this is Google Trends. Um, and this is on the weekly basis. Okay, this is based on a weekly reading, and based on Google Trends here. This is in just for United States for the past 5 years. I'll show you guys. This is for the coin Bitcoin, because I think Bitcoin is basically the gateway crypto for retail, right? Once they discover Bitcoin, they'll start discovering other altcoins. At least that's my logic, right? At least that's my personal experience. Okay. And what I'm seeing here for Bitcoin for this week is going to be about 41, which is not low. I mean, if you guys see the trend here, retail is heating up. This basically shows you, you know, an index of I mean, basically all searches on Google in the United States for the past 5 years. So this is a good measurement for retail here for me, right? And we're at 41. I don't think that's low. Okay, I don't think retail is sitting out right now. Okay, if we actually compare it with previous bull cycles, you guys can see that it's gonna fluctuate, but I think we're getting there. It's trending up. All right, let's go ahead and go to the charts here. Okay, this is the Bitcoin charts. Let me show you guys the monthly time frame, which is very important to be paying attention to. We are still at a monthly RSI reading of 72. Of course, we have bearish divergence, and this could still dump, right? It could still pull back, okay, on the monthly time frame, which is huge. Um, and bearish divergence usually means it's gonna pull back. Okay, but like I said, there has been exceptions, and will this be one of those exceptions? Um, right? I mean, I can give you my personal opinion. I think so. It could be an exception because we have just broken out of this all-time high, and during previous breaks of all-time highs, the bulls kept pushing through. Okay, of course, everything here I'm saying is my opinions, none of which is financial advice, of course. Let's take a look into the daily time frame where I pointed out that yesterday, if we did not break this upward trend line here, that we could be forming a falling wedge pattern. We did not break that upward trend line there, and we have formed a falling wedge pattern here. Now, some important reversal signals to be paying attention to is that we're on the daily 21 SMA. I mentioned that to be pretty good support. Let's see if this support would actually take us to a higher high. Okay, just because you see support doesn't mean that it's going to give you a higher high. Okay, let's take a look into 12-hour time frame where we're also going to get pretty close to that 12-hour 50 SMA, currently at very close to that bottom trend line. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame here, the hourly time frame. This is a double bottom pattern with bullish divergence, quite a bit of bullish divergence here. Price target for this double bottom pattern would take Bitcoin back to about almost 119. Okay, 119K here. Let's see if it could do that. Now we're also in a falling wedge pattern here as well, like I said. And when you combine quite a bit of these reversal signals here, I think that gives me a lot better probability that this is going to be reversing. Of course, I'll also have to consider the downside risk as well, just because not everything is 100% in this market, right? Just because you have all these reversal signals does not 100% mean that it's gonna reverse, right? Just have to see how things play out. If some of these reversal signals start getting invalidated, then that would be bad news. So just gotta be paying attention to that. Now, if Bitcoin actually does reverse and break out of this falling wedge pattern where it usually does break to the upside, okay, the price target, if it breaks out by this point here, would give Bitcoin about 100, just right above 125K here. All right, let's go ahead and move on to some altcoins and see what's going on. Of course, these altcoin setups are going to be dependent on what Bitcoin does. First of all, we're going to go to OriginTrail and see what's going on in OriginTrail. Now, one pattern you guys should definitely be paying attention to, if you guys are new, um, it's the falling wedge pattern because it's probably the most common pattern that's very effective in indicating a reversal, more likely of a reversal. So this is the weekly time frame for OriginTrail, and this is one of those AI coins that hasn't really been doing too much. Okay, but it has just based on the pattern here, I am seeing some pretty good potential. And the weekly time frame here, falling wedge pattern, still in the midsection of this pattern here. Currently at the weekly 50 SMA, that is your resistance on this time frame right now, at about 55 cents. Okay, if it breaks out by this point here, price target will give OriginTrail about just right underneath $1.90. Now, price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less. Very much depends on the type of market we're in, and of course, depends on Bitcoin. Okay. I think we're still in a very bullish market. So I do think that these price targets could be broken. Now, if also have to take in consideration of the downside as well. There could be fake outs, there could be breakouts that go short of the price target and then it dumps. There's a chance of that happening as well, and of course, a chance of the falling wedge pattern breaking to the downside as well. So, that is basically what I'm seeing for OriginTrail on a higher time frame. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame here and see what could be happening. Smaller time frame, hourly time frame here. This is a falling wedge pattern. Okay, like I said, probably the most common pattern you guys would see. It's also very effective. Now, if it breaks out by this point here, the price target would be about 57, 58 cents, about there. Okay, that's still quite a bit of a move here on a smaller time frame. Okay, it is currently near the bottom of this trend line here, so um, I usually like to get in at the bottom of a pattern that is usually lower risk, right? I don't like chasing breakouts. I generally don't. So that's basically what I'm seeing for OriginTrail. This is TRAC USDT. Let's take a look into the next coin here, which is Flux. Weekly time frame. What are we seeing for Flux? Weekly time frame. Again, a falling wedge pattern. Like I said, this pattern should be your friend in a bull market. Well, also, I mean, yeah, especially in the bull markets. This is a falling wedge pattern, huge falling wedge pattern. Just something to say here is that these are smaller altcoins. Okay, they're gonna have higher volatility, both to the upside and downside. I've seen some pretty deep drawdowns for these smaller altcoins as well. So when if you guys are in these altcoins, or if you guys are considering getting into these altcoins, just make sure to know that the downside risk is also pretty high. Okay, so Flux USDT, uh, huge falling wedge pattern near the bottom of this pattern here. Okay, and if it breaks out by this point, and if it breaks to the upside, price target would be about $3.30. Okay, that's a 10x, right? If it breaks to the upside and if it achieves that price target. So let's see if Flux is able to do that in this bull cycle. Um, let's take a look into a smaller time frame, see what's going on. Do we have any clues? I think on the 2-hour time frame, there is a double bottom with bullish divergence. Bullish divergence basically tells you that it's usually going to reverse. In this case, it did. Okay, this is the 2-hour time frame. Double bottom patterns are also very important to know because they're usually reversal patterns. Okay, and the neckline of this double bottom pattern would be about 25 cents. If it breaks to the upside here, Flux could be looking at a price target of about 27 cents. This is a shorter time frame with a shorter price target. Now, quite a bit of resistance for Flux on a higher time frame, including the weekly 21 SMA. It hasn't really broken through yet. Okay, it's about 25 cents, and you're gonna see quite a bit of moving averages that's gonna be coming. If that's gonna be acting as resistance overhead. Let's go over here to iExec RLC. See what's going on in this markets. Weekly time frame. Let's take a zoomed out view before zooming in, just to get more clarity. RLC, falling wedge pattern again. Nothing surprising. Okay. That usually tells you after an extensive downtrend that it's usually going to break to the upside. Price target here is going to be about $4.80 if it breaks out at this point. It is currently at the weekly 21 SMA as resistance, currently at about $1.10. Okay, let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see what we could be looking at. Smaller time frame, it looks like a possible double bottom pattern here again. So it's going to look very much like Bitcoin right now because Bitcoin just dumped and looks like it could be reversing. Double bottom pattern, 2-hour time frame, you guys can see. Neckline here, basically the resistance point of this pattern would be about $1.10. Price target, if it breaks out, would be about $1.18, about $1.19. Okay, that's basically you measure the opening of the pattern and then you put it on top of the neckline. So this is basically what I'm seeing for these coins for crypto markets as a whole right now. If you guys want to continue seeing more of these coins and get updates, make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.